Greetings, everybody, and welcome to this official and celebratory opening of our new Ascended Master School here in Zeeland. I am the Pah Kwan Yin San, and I guess, except for a few people here, most of you don't know me or don't know me very well, and I don't officially know you very well. But what I will say, and what maybe is the most important thing to know, is that I love you with all of my heart for an infinity of reasons. And I know that beyond all the personalities that sit here right now, that love that I feel for you is the same love that is within all of you. It is what connects us, what keeps us together as not only a species, but as explorers of consciousness in this reality. So, again, I am very happy and very joyful that you are all here. I'm probably more nervous than most of you right now. Truth be told, it's been a long time since we've done public presentations like this with a beautiful audience like all of you who are sitting here right now. We started a long time ago, long before most of you were born in 2005, with a very simple dream. And that dream was to manifest the place that you are sitting in today. It took a long time. Today is 2023, but it is an important message to everyone to never give up on your dreams, to never give up on your passion, to know for sure that as you go into this passion, as you let go of all the things that stop you from entering into it, that beautiful angels will appear around you on your path. You might have to let go of a lot. Everyone who is here in the crew today knows that. You might have to travel the entire world to find each other, which we did. But once it all comes together, there is a power in the connection that you can make as your dream, as your passion grows. And with every person that joined our organization, that joined what I like to call the crew, a bit of a sci-fi fan, you know, that dream grew and that dream became more solid until this year. Actually, last year we came close to it, but this year it manifested. And it manifested in a way that I never thought it would. First of all, I thought I would be having this presentation in Hawaii right now, a bit further for most of you to travel to. But we are here, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Zeeland, none of us are originally from Zeeland, and I don't know how many people are, but for us it has proven to be a true paradise. I cannot describe it in any other way. It feels that we are in a very different location than most of what I could call the Netherlands or Belgium or the rest of Europe even. I've said, because as we have traveled all over the place in the last 10, 15 years or so, we have been, for instance, in Shasta, in Mount Shasta in California. And we've been in Sedona, if any of you know these places, and Hawaii itself. And all of these places carry something that we have found here. And we never expected it. This place announced itself to us, and yeah, then everything went pretty normal after that. So anyway, we started in 2005, and today here we are in 2023. Many of us, Eva, who is sitting there, was one of the first people to start the organization with us and to host events and that sort of thing. And in one of the very first private sessions that you had, the Cosmic 12, which used to speak a lot, a collection of Ascended Masters, at the beginning in 2005 till 2007, let's say, before they started splitting up in individual voices like Kutumi and Adamus and those sorts of people. You had a private session, Amy, or Eva, we use both names very often, in which already back then it was shared that a type of school of life, let's say, was supposed to be created, a school of life which was not about rules and regulations, but about consciousness, about the human heart and its connection to the infinite universe that is within and that expresses itself outside of us. And already back in those days, it was said that this place would manifest. And now, when later one of the teachers will come in, I'm very sure they're going to say they always knew it was going to be here, you know, that sort of thing. But in a way, we always did. We always did. I myself, or at least the body, is born in Limburg in Belgium. So for me, it is not that far. Again, I only had to travel the world to find my way here, let's say. And as I said, since 2005, we didn't quite understand school of life. Why is it necessary to build something like that or to create something like that? Because ultimately, everyone has all of the wisdom within. Everyone can access this, and that is true. You know, you don't need to come here, you don't need to sit here and hear truth being spoken, or if you consider it truth anyway, from the outside. That's obvious. You all carry this within. So this is not only about that. This is about making communion, about making connection, about creating community in a way that we haven't been able to do so before. And not only here in Zeeland, but also there's many people right now that are going to be watching this, who are all over the world. As I said, we've traveled all over the world throughout all of these years. And in that time, there have been many connections made. Some of our channeled messages have been seen over 1 million times since 2007. And many people have felt the assistance and the sovereignty that the messages attempt to bring. But especially, what has always been, as I said, the most important was the connection, the community. And that is something that we have all missed for many, many years. And not only because of ourselves, not only because we decided to stop organizing events for a while, but I think that you all know how the last 4 or 5 years on this planet have played out. So as I said, back in 2005 I thought, or we all thought, what's the point of an organization like this? And then 2020 comes along, then the lockdowns come along, then government mandates come along, and all of a sudden, everything that these teachers have been saying for many, many years, all of a sudden manifested into reality. I don't know how many people here, for instance, like alternative information, such as presented in David Icke's information. I know he's a very dualistic person right now in many people's minds. But if you look at that sort of information, or information from people all over the world, including in this organization, including what has come through here, then I think it took everyone by surprise, even though it shouldn't, that these years came to pass. All of a sudden, Earth, or at least our society, was no longer the place that it once was. And even though everyone knew that under the surface of our minds and the politeness that makes up most of this world, let's say, there was a different type of energy, a darkness, a duality that hadn't quite shown itself. This is something we're going to be talking about a little bit today. I have a bit of an idea what is going to be coming through in the channeled messages and the Q&A later. But it is certainly something that made us think that now that everything in this society officially has been reopened again, it doesn't take much to start looking for the same types of pieces, the same types of puzzles here in the Netherlands alone. If we look at the information that has been coming out in the news here in the last few years, we know that governments, and at least the ones running these governments, haven't been very kind for people and have made it almost impossible for most people to live. And rules and regulations kept coming in and continue in this moment to come in. The result is that since 2005, you can say, you have slowly seen this society move from a more organic way of being into, how shall I say, a computational model of reality almost, where everything works almost like a computer system. You either fit in the right box or you don't. And of course, I know that many of you here don't necessarily think like this or don't live their lives like this. It is exactly why we are bringing you together. And it's exactly why I'm so grateful that all of you have decided to be here today. Because I think, and maybe you agree with me, that over the years, most people who want to see a different planet, who want to see a different way of life, make one single mistake. And it's a Lemurian mistake, if you will, because the being that is going to come in here later, the Pah Kwan Yin San, is a Lemurian being. And in Lemuria, there was a saying, and there are many sayings in Lemuria, but one of them was expression before experience. And this is something that many people get wrong. They are presented, confronted with the world around them. They think this world is already manifest, that it is a world based on matter, based on solid shape. Of course it isn't. Everyone here probably knows that. And in that world, things supposedly happen to you. Anything can happen to you. Good things can happen to you, bad things can happen to you, terrible things, wonderful things, everything. But from the Lemurian perspective, and also from the perspective of the ascended teachers, which I often refer to as ascended life as a grouping, this is quite the opposite. The manifested world around us, obviously, is the result of our inner manifestation. Now, in that inner manifestation, none of us actually experience a separate world. There are some principles that also were used back in Lemuria, and these principles are based on the simple active ingredients of reality creation. In other words, we claim that this world is not made of matter, that it is not made of vibration, that it is not made of photons even, that all of these things are merely the manifestation of your inner consciousness expressing this world. Underneath all of that, the way in which you are expressing this is through very simple ingredients of reality creation. So simple that even a baby knows them. The first one is love. The second one, joy, freedom, truth, life, gratitude, grace, and well-being. These are much like the elements of earth, wind, fire, etc., building blocks of reality. They exist within you, and not only do they exist within you, they exist in a place inside of you that is the same in all of us. We often refer to this place as the heart space, obviously, but many people still believe or still think when they go in there that they are in their own heart space. And since 2007, the Imzaia material of which all of this is based, has been teaching that that place is something that during Lemurian days was called the Akene. Now that Akene, much like quantum science has now discovered, exists in a quantum entanglement. In other words, and in a super entanglement on top of that. In other words, there's only one heart space, only one Akene, and it expresses itself in all of us individually. Now, that means that if you go in here, as most of you do, I assume, that you are everyone, that you are connected, not only connected to everyone, but that you are everyone. And it is these principles These very simple principles that are needed in order to change reality. Many people might think differently about this, but I don't feel that going to protests or speaking out towards power or any of these things, or trying to take up arms, even like you see in some countries, makes any change whatsoever. Because you are already dealing with an external reality that you have already manifested through your belief systems. And yes, even though you may not think that a war in Ukraine, for instance, is a manifestation of these ingredients that I just said, love, joy, freedom, etc., it truly is. What this material teaches is that these building blocks can also be used. They are all based on geometries, let's say, but these geometries can be inverted. They can be twisted. Think about the infinity sign. And think about the infinity sign that the new Facebook company uses, Meta. There, the infinity sign is sort of twisted into what you could say is a game controller for a computer or something. But what it actually shows is an inverted geometry, and a geometry that has been quietly or silently twisted, changed slightly, so that the manifestation that follows that geometry in matter becomes something that is not the original intention of these original geometries. And that's what we call inverted geometry. The good news about that, however, that they're inverted, is that everything, no matter what presents itself to you, is still based on love, is still based on joy, on freedom, on truth, on life, on gratitude, grace, and well-being. You just don't recognize it because it has been twisted up, inverted, and manifested in such a way that it can look dramatic to you, that it can look painful to you. These can be things that are happening in your body. A headache, for instance, can feel painful, but it is still an inverted geometry that comes out of the manifestation of love, joy, and freedom, etc. So, as I was saying earlier, when you look at these basic principles, love, during Lemurian times, these would be used to easily get to a state of universal or unity consciousness without any problem. What people used to do, and what the students here also regularly practice with, is the understanding that when you access the state of love, that there is nothing that comes before it, and there is nothing that comes after it. Basically, truly putting you in the now moment. This was first presented by an ascended energy known as Solaris, which has been speaking through this body for many, many years, probably back in 2008 or late 2007, I would say, where she brings the key ingredient to start working on the ascension path right to the human being by speaking about love being the only thing that triggers a moment where nothing comes before it and nothing comes after it. That means, technically speaking, that any idea you might have of a person that you've seen 5 seconds ago is incorrect. Because that is the beginning of your personality creating a past event and a possible future event. They are no longer the authentic representations of the being that is actually standing in front of you, that you are sharing your space with. That's the first step. And that step alone, theoretically speaking, for many people that call themselves light workers and seekers of consciousness, is very understandable theoretically. When you have to put it into practice, however, it becomes another thing altogether. And when I say put it into practice, I don't mean just during an exercise that you're doing for 5 minutes. I mean putting it to practice constantly, continuously, from the moment you re-enter this reality in the morning until you leave again. But you can already see the problem with the society that I was describing earlier, of course. How are you going to live in a society that defines everything based on a personality that is the collection of all of your past experiences, of everything that you have done in life, every grade in school you've ever gotten, everything you've done right, everything you've done wrong, studies you have done, partners you have had, work you have had, friendships, you name it. Children, dogs, cats, houses, locations, objects, all of these things, they all belong anchored in your past, even though you are experiencing them now. In Lemurian times and in this material, this is a simple thing that is called the circle of awareness. If you think about a circle, you put in the now is in the center of that circle, the eternal now. And you divide that circle into 4 squares. And you could say at the top of the circle you have the future of the self and the future of the other. The bottom of the circle you have the past of the self and the past of the other. Now I challenge you, try to have a thought, try to think about something in your life that doesn't belong in those 4 quadrants. In the past of the self, the past of the other, the future of the self, and the future of the other. That is the awareness that one can keep in mind when one enters into the state of eternal now, using the active ingredient of love. It's really that simple. You activate it right here, and you bring it to your mind. Now, I could go into a lot of details, and we will do so at another point, because, of course, the mind itself, we do not speak necessarily about the chakra system. We speak about the kakra system. This, again, comes from Lemurian times. Many people don't like to hear this, and since 2007, many people haven't liked hearing this, but I firmly claim, and I know for a fact, that the chakra system is a dualistic creation that has been put upon people in order to stop them from accessing their actual authentic self. And I find that if you go deeper through the chakra system, you will discover what the Lemurians called, and has been available on our website for many years, the Kakra system. This is the original chakra system from which the building of the chakra systems even began. The way in which you can see, and again, many people don't like this, but the way in which you can see that the chakra system is a human invention is that basically every few years a new book gets written about a new chakra. The 13th chakra, the 14th chakra, much like Reiki and all these other things. They're great tools to work with, and they help you, the chakras can help you very well to understand the vibrational system of reality, the 12 vibrations in which this hologram manifests, but not anything that is beyond it. At that point, you focus on the Kakra system, which is a very simple system. It's the head, the heart, and the belly. The head you speak of as the Akonai in Lemurian. The heart you speak of as the Akene in Lemurian. And here you have the Adonai. It's very simple. The only one that's real, even in those 3, is the Akene that I spoke of earlier. This heart space that is this one unique heart space that we all share. A collective, unified consciousness. From the heart space, when you enter into realities that are dualistic, such as this one, and we can talk about that a great deal too, you manifest your mind, which is there to do the thinking, of course, and you manifest your belly, which is there to do the creating from the heart. So I bring this up because I was talking to you about love and activating love, right? Now, when you activate this love, you can, of course, begin here in the heart space where it is the easiest to do so. But after that, if you want to activate what I was earlier talking about, you focus on the head chakra, your mind, and the space that is around it, let's say, And you think again about 4 quadrants. One here, one here, one here, and one here. Very simple. In this first area of your mind, that is where you focus on the energy of love. Now, when you do so, as I said, and you do this with intent, you will find that your past and your future fade away. But it goes further than that. One of the ways in which I simply like to do is when I take a walk here on the polders or something, simply while you're walking, I focus on love. And as I do, simply anything that came before and anything that came after disappears. You're in the now moment. At that moment, you focus on the next active ingredient of reality creation, which is joy. Now, joy is in itself a combination of love and itself. So you see, this is a build-up that happens. Now, with joy, a true state of joy, something very interesting happens. What keeps you out of joy? What keeps you even out of happiness most of the time? It's up here. Even when you have pain here, it's up here. And the pain that comes from the lack of joy is the idea, the inverted idea, that the space that is within you is separate from the space that is outside of you. Focusing on joy stops that space from being separate and collapses them into one state. So first you have been focusing on the fact that there is nothing that comes before and nothing that comes after. That opens you up to a space where the inner world and the outer world are one and the same. That is the space of joy. If you go further to a state of freedom, at that point, now that you have reached this balance between inner and outer space, you focus on the truth that all the beings that you see in the space outside of you, whether they be humans, plants, animals, bricks, houses, the wind, is the same being, one and the same being than all the beings that you find in your inner world. There is only one being sitting here in this room and talking to itself right now. And that is the Creator Self, from which all of you have manifested these personalities, the many lifetimes you live. That all gets unified in a space of freedom. Then, when you take another step into a space of truth, at that point, you become aware of the fact that every single point that is outside of you and every single point that is within you is one and the same point. Just like what I said earlier about the Akane. Every single photon that you see is not... Science on that level, according to Ascended Life, has it very wrong. Science currently believes that there are 8 billion hearts on the planet and that there are trillions and trillions of photons that make up matter. And Ascended Life says, no, there's one photon. One. And this one photon, in a holographic superimposed state, creates all of the other photons that you see, all of the other light that you see, everything. Now, that is the state of truth, the understanding that all of those points, think about it as pixels for a minute, that's easier maybe, you know. All of those pixels, all of these points are different, yet they are one and the same in such a way that they are the same, yet they all have unique properties in time and space. That's the only difference between this photon here and this photon here. It's the same photon, it's just that its individual signature is manifesting slightly more to the right, let's say. And that's the same for all of you. That's the same for all of us here, everyone. This simplicity is where this work that we present says that we should start our day at that point. In other words, you could claim that you are not really the human that you intended to be when you first decided to take on this shape, this lifetime, and this body, without these states I just described actually being intact. Because otherwise, your life is being lived by all of the outside forces, all of the rules and regulations, and everything else that you think yourself to be. Now, nobody says that there's a problem with that. If you or anyone wants to live life that way, that's fine. It's part of the experience. You could call it an experiential school, right? So it's fine. But the truth is that you cannot be telling yourself stories at that time. Because what is going to happen, of course, and everyone here knows this, you're all at various stages of your life, and you all have people that are older than you in your life. And you can see that in most of those cases, it's not for everyone, luckily, but in many of these cases, and it can also start happening at a very young age, something begins to happen, which is what is called the narrowing of parameters. The parameters that your personality thinks is right and is wrong. The bandwidth in which you exist, that you say, these are the people I want around me because they think in a certain way, they are in a certain way, certain things about life are good, other things are bad. These things become more and more narrow. The more energy is siphoned off of you in the now and stored in heavy, heavy burdens, if you will, in the past of the self, in the past of the other, judgments, ideas, pain that never was healed with others, and therefore the future of the self and the future of the other. So what that does is it narrows more and more over time the bandwidth of your infinite energy that is coming, your infinite life force that is coming in here. And it allows for you to therefore have a more narrow personality profile, a more narrow look on the world. That's why a lot of people, as they get more and more confronted with these situations of past and future, become less and less happy. They become more grumpy. They start taking it out on others. All sorts of things. Some of them get in power and take it out on others even more. Others do that in families. Some people just take it out on themselves and it eats themselves alive. These things are all the result of not actually allowing you to be you. And you can then say, well, but there's a lot of responsibilities and other people expect all sorts of things from me. Yes, that is true, and you cannot simply walk away from responsibility, but it is also true, of course you can if you want to, but it is also true that by not changing yourself and not speaking out kindly, always kindly to others, and offering them the potential of moving into a different way of looking at the world and looking at life that is freer, that is more loving, that is more joyful, more based on truth. If you don't offer that potential, then you are just perpetuating the same game, the same problem. And I know again that many of you, the ones that I have seen on Facebook, I know that a lot of you do a lot of things in this world in order to enhance life, to make it better, more beautiful for others. But this is again my point. If you go back to the Lemurian expression of expression before experience, what you express is what you get in the world, then the truth of it is that if you do not open yourself up, or if you do not, let's say, remove from yourself these limitations, then you are always going to be expressing a world that has these things in it that you do not like. We call these vibrational habits. Things that are part of your personality, belief systems that you might have or might have had, that you now have under some form of balance, let's say. But these vibrational habits, they stay within you, and if you are not conscious of them, which most people in this world are not, you are going to, by default, manifest these belief systems over and over and over again. Now, again, all of this is known by all of you probably in theory, but the point we are trying to make here is putting it into practice. And not just putting it into practice, as I said earlier, during some exercise here or there, but by making it your life's work, by making it your life's mission, here in your heart, to step into the being that you came here to be in this lifetime. As I said earlier, there have been many things that have happened, especially in the last 3 or 4, 5 years, that have shocked a lot of people. They shocked us too. I still remember, was it March 2020, the first lockdown here in the Netherlands took place during the COVID era. And we had just opened up our new website. And we lived in 2 different houses. At that point, we lived in Brabant. And our crew was in 2 different locations, like is the same for many of you, and we couldn't even come together unless we would have broken the law. Now, I won't say if we did or we didn't break the law, but officially, you couldn't. And initially, we were indeed silly enough to actually celebrate the opening of our own website and the start of this new phase of our project on little screens. I mean, I still remember you, Amber, and Tara over there dancing on the laptop, trying to get the same music through. These sorts of silly things, silly rules, silly situations. I can talk about so many. They annoy me every day. And that is where I have a problem with my own past and future self, you see. These things annoy me because you don't want this for people. You don't want people to be told what sort of heating system they can put in their house. You don't want to be told by how many people you can be in your house. And if anyone thinks that all of that has now come to an end, then I have to admit that I believe that that is not necessarily true. But it isn't true in the way that most of you maybe think what I'm trying to say. I am not saying that all of these things are going to come back. Because the message that is going to come in later, which I was lying in bed awake for all night, because, you know, these guys, they don't shut up. Just keep going when a moment like this is going to happen. I was told a lot of information already about the phase that we are in now, and it is very, very interesting, which is exactly why I am talking about you creating your reality in a practical way that you have probably never found yourself doing before. The message will also speak about the period that came before all of this, the period that had to do with 2012, and the period that even goes all the way back to the 1960s. I won't share too much about it, because otherwise Ikara doesn't have to come in today. But it does go all the way back there, and I think that most of you, if you take stock of what will have been said after this message, that you might agree with me that there has been a very long build-up of a very long con game, a very long charade of people giving their power away to outside forces. And it is my hope, within the opening of this school, to see this vibrant community that has always been here in Zeeland. I wish I had known about this before, because then we would have come a long time ago, to see this community here. It is my hope that here and in many other places on Earth, we can make a starting point to activate a group, a community of beings worldwide that begin to understand that you create reality within, and that are given the simple tools, the simple metaphysical, spiritual, energy-based tools to do this work themselves in their own lives, in their own hearts. And that is what we are trying to bring. This is also why we made the decision, for which we have a decision that we have been wanting to make actually since 2005, to open all of this up free and from the heart. We feel that this is also important right now, to understand that we can move beyond the financial restrictions, the monetary restrictions, the dualistic restrictions of the mind, and everything else that keeps us separate. Of course, we ourselves are not millionaires and therefore cannot do all of this for free, but that is exactly why we set up a system with all 9 of us here to make it so that we use everything, all of the money that everyone makes in their daily jobs, to make this place a reality and to make it free for everyone. Because you know very well that it is very often those that have found themselves at the edge of society, or at least the edge of financial society, that have either chosen to drop out because none of it is worth it, or that have been pushed out because they speak up too much. And it is exactly that community, that group of people, that is now ready to change the world. That is what I believe. And that is why all of this is offered for free here and anywhere in the world, so anyone can use these tools and make this happen. Again, as I said at the beginning of this introduction, I'm nervous. I'm still a little bit nervous. But I hope that as we get to know one another, for those of you that choose to join again at a later date, that we come to a place where, much like the Lemurian, with simply a look in each other's eyes, feeling each other's hearts, we change the fabric of this world exactly into the new earth that we all imagine it possibly to be. So, having said all of that, I'm going to take a short break. After that, the Paikara-san will come in, and then the Padasanka Barak Solaris-san over there will play live music during the channel. In the meantime, if you need anything, Eva and the others are here for you. We'll break for about 10-15 minutes, and then we'll continue. Thank you very much.